You're watching the 5 Minute Bark Podcast on YouTube. If you like this episode, you just may like many more. Subscribe today by clicking the red subscribe button in the top right-hand corner. All right, everybody, we're here today again on the 5 Minute Bark, and we've got Caleb Maddix here today. Such a treat. I got my first opportunity to meet this gentleman over in San Diego, California at the Ultimate Stage Experience. And, you know, what do you expect from a 14-year-old? You just don't even know what to expect. And when I got there, being that I've seen Tony Robbins on stage, I've seen some of the top great speakers around the world, this guy is certainly motivated, and I'm glad to have him on our show today. So, Caleb, say hello.
Well, I'm glad to be here, man. It was super great meeting you at the Ultimate Stage Experience. I was actually taking Q&A, and this guy goes, listen, what's it going to take? I'm live on stage. He says, what's it going to take to do an interview on on my podcast? That's what he said. I was like, listen, I'm in. So look where we're at, and yeah, I'm excited to do this.
You know, let's start with that, Caleb. I mean, it's really all about, you know, overcoming your fears. Because I'll be honest, I was nervous, in front of, 100 people, 200 people, whatever people are there. I got to jump up and say, hey, I got this opportunity to get this guy to come on my show. Let's ask him. And it's not easy to do that. And that's kind of how your career started pretty much, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, there was constantly moments where I was nervous to do something or this, that, and I just did it. And literally my life was changed because of that.
And listen, people, if you're not familiar with Caleb, you may want to look him up on the internet after this show. But Caleb is just relentless at showing people what is possible at any age. And we'll go into that a little bit more here today, but I'm telling you right now, after this podcast, you're going to be looking him up, you're going to be going to his Twitter, you're going to be going to his Facebook and checking him out, because this guy is really, really amazing. One of the best things I liked about Caleb, you and your dad, the relationship you guys had was it was emotionally powerful. Tell us how that all started.
Well, I mean, first of all, I got to start by saying this, people message me. I've hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. I get a lot of messages, and one of the most consistent messages that I get is, you're only successful because of your dad, Caleb. And I try to answer back, but I really have no answer, because it's kind of true. I am where I am today because of my dad. He's the greatest dad on the planet. I mean, I'm speaking with Tony Robbins in February. I've already spoken with Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone. I'm business partners with Kevin Harrington, with Russell Brunson. Russell Brunson has actually done the marketing for Tony Robbins throughout the years. So I've met a lot of powerful people. But the thing is, I've never had as much respect for them as I have my dad, because my dad's had success in business and he's been there for me. And we have basically the greatest relationship on the planet.
So the first time, your dad had to make a decision. Listen, I'm gonna take my son and make him the best human being possible. The first signs that you knew he was doing that, when was that? How old were you? And can you remember that experience?
Yeah, I remember whenever I was about 6 years old, I went over to one of my friend's house. I was probably 7 or 8, actually. I went over to one of my friend's house, and their mom gave them a $20 bill. And I was I asked them, why'd your mom just give you a $20 bill? And they said, well, I did my chores for the last 2 months, so she gave me $20. And I was like, man. So I would go home and I tell my dad, listen, I want to start doing chores. That way I can make money. I want to start having an allowance. And he says, you know what? Instead of me paying you $20 to take out the trash, he says, I expect you to do that. I don't think you need a reward for that, because that's just something you're going to do. He said, why don't I pay you $20 for every single book that you read? That's what I mean. Why don't I pay you $20 for every single book you read? And the reason why is, he said, you're going to get paid whenever you're older for what you read anyways. So I was like, man, I'm in. And, I have this bookshelf right in front of me of all these books. I've literally read half of all these books, and there's hundreds of them. Man, that's just been something I've always done, because whenever I was younger, I even read a book that was 400 pages long, because I knew that my dad would give me $20 if I would read that. So that's kind of been my motivation throughout my entire life. And that's a moment that I could tell that my dad was different and that my dad really cared, was whenever he paid me $20 for the book that I read instead of just doing chores.
That's awesome. I had another guest on, Josh Elise, and he actually read books, not as parents, but the school had this book drive that they were doing in school. So you would get credits if you read books. Similar thing that happened to him, and before you know it, he's a multi-millionaire, driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Rolls Royces. And
That's awesome.
I don't even think he's 30 years old yet. So similar to you, he read books to get to where he's going. And you hear that more and more. What about book reading versus audio? How do you feel about those two things?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, it's not really reading if it's audio, there's that. It depends why you're reading. I mean, if you're reading because of the benefits of actually reading and sitting down and controlling yourself, then obviously reading. But if you're just trying to get knowledge, then the audiobook is just as good, maybe even better, because you can read it quicker. And some people just they learn better that way. So, I mean, it really depends. I mean, I try to read as much as I can, like actual books. I read about a book a week. That's an actual book. And the reason why is there's a lot of benefits of reading. But if I'm just trying to get knowledge out of a book, I'll put it on double speed and I'll listen to it in the car on the way to a speaking gig or an interview, whatever that is, and I'll just consume the knowledge. It just depends kind of what your goal is. I'm not against audiobooks like most people, but there is benefits of actually reading a book.
Right. So what time of the day usually should I get set aside for book reading?
I mean, it really depends on the day because my day is crazy. I mean, this month alone, I've been to San Diego where I met you. I've been to D.C. I've been to New York City. I went to Sydney, Australia, Albury, Australia. This week I'm going to London. So my life's hectic and crazy. So it really depends on the day, what time I read. But I typically like to read in the morning. That way I can work on some of those principles throughout the day. A problem that a lot of people have is they just study a bunch of people. They just go back, I'm going to read this book and this book and this book. I'm going to watch this YouTube video, all this stuff. Something that I try to do is instead of studying a bunch of people, I study one new person every single week. And I literally just consume their content. So I try to do it in the morning, consume their content, that person that I'm studying that week, and then I apply it throughout the day because people say books is the key to transformation. Not true. I mean, I believe, education is the key to success. The key to success, KEY, is to keep educating yourself. But that's not the key to transformation. Information is the key to transformation. Information plus application is the key to transformation. So if you actually apply that stuff, that's what matters.
Awesome. Being that you're 14 years old now, what grade would you be in high school?
I'm actually I'm a freshman.
Okay, so ninth grade. So my original career was an extreme sports athlete. I used to go around and travel the world as an extreme sport, doing shows and competitions and so on and so forth. And then later on, I ended up being a school assembly. I used to end up going and motivating kids at schools that were
awesome.
10 to 14 years old, going to thousands of schools around the country. And now I'm taking my radio show on the tour to some schools. So maybe if there's something, maybe I could use a clip here that you could talk to other 14-year-olds out there and give them some sort of advice. What would you say to these kids that are in school in ninth grade, and what can you do to get themselves to the level you're at?
First of all, it's absolutely awesome that you do that. I mean, my favorite thing to talk to is schools by far, because I know 10 years down the line, a kid's going to walk up to me and be like, I heard your speech and here's why I am. Boom, 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 boom. So my personal advice to anyone who's under 18 would be three things: learn, earn, and return. Learn, earn, and return. I said this in my speech at the Ultimate Sage Experience, but I believe this concept to the day I die. Learning, number one, get books. I mean, start to read. Will Smith was asked, what's your number one key to success? He said reading. Warren Buffett reads 6 hours a day. The dude's worth $64 billion. That's crazy, right? So start reading. Start educating yourself. It's a major key. Number two is earn. Start making money. The average millionaire was making some sort of money before the age of 12 years old. So start getting out there, making money. Ever since I was little, I used to literally take erasers. I would draw on erasers like logos of sports teams, whatever, and I would go sell them on my school and make money from it. I was always making money, and that's how I made hundreds of thousands of dollars. I made $40,000 in 1 hour the other day. But it didn't start because I was like, oh, I'm going to make $40,000. No, I started selling stuff for $4, $14, whatever. So make sure that you're starting to earn, and the number three is return. A lot of people and kids underestimate how important giving is to your success. A lot of times whenever people are like, oh, I'm not doing the best in my life right now, they try to work their way through it, right? That's not the key.
Exactly.
When nothing's going good, do something good for somebody else. That's the principle that I live by. So that's what I would encourage each and every single kid out there to do is learn, earn, and return. If you do those three things, your life will be changed forever.
Learn, earn, and return. I love it. That's absolutely the total formula most people are using out there, and I agree. And at any age, you're proving it. At any age, things can happen. It doesn't have to be 14 years old or 65 years old. It doesn't matter. You can just take action and make things happen, because now we have this thing called the internet and social media. And, you know, one of the things that I really enjoyed you talking about, because I've actually struggled with it myself personally, is, you know, you talked about a post that was kind of controversial, so to speak, online. But it all kind of came back to being yourself. Right. Can you talk about that post that you kind of talked about there, where, you know, some people were hating you for it and some people were loving you for it?
So actually exactly where I am right now, I shot this video about a couple months back, and the video was basically about, you know, being poor. And what poor means is to pass over opportunities repeatedly. That's what poor stands for, right? So as I shot this video, it was extremely motivational. Like, I was fired up. I was on top of it. And like, it was one of the better videos that I've done in a long time. And I was thinking, okay, I want to post this, but it's kind of a little bit controversial, meaning like it's talking about why you're poor, yada, yada. I was like, I don't know if I should post this. There's going to be people who are like, you're just a 14-year-old kid. What do you know about being poor, yada, yada, whatever. So I sit down and I say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and post this video. So I get onto Facebook. I go to post the video, and I was like, okay, what should I use the title as? And I was thinking I would make the title like, you know, this video is really motivational, something like that, right? And I said, you know what? No, I'm going to make the title Why You Were Poor. I said, if I'm going to post something controversial, I'm going to go all out on it. So I go ahead, I upload this video. Long story short, within 5 hours, the video has 100,000 views on Facebook. Like 100,000 views within 5 hours. And I see this, and I'm like, man, all these people are finding out about me. I have like 10,000 new likes on my page. This is unbelievable. So I go into my messages, and I start reading my messages, right? And I start realizing all of these people are hardcore criticizing me. It's like, man, this is awful. And I come across this one message, and it's this guy who says, Caleb, you should just commit suicide. Your videos are so dumb that you should commit suicide. And I remember reading that comment and thinking to myself, if someone hates this video so much that they talk about me committing suicide, you know that I probably shouldn't have posted that video. I was devastated. I was kind of down on myself, so I keep scrolling a little bit. Scroll through. Come across another comment, bad criticism, all this stuff. And then I come across this one comment from this mother who says, hey, Caleb, I just found out about you. My son's been watching your videos. And she said, a couple months ago, my son almost got arrested. Right now, he has the worst grades in his class. He's depressed. He's talked about committing suicide. He hates his life. You know, he's constantly getting in trouble. And she goes through all of this stuff of like, what happened bad? And then she said, since he's been watching your videos, she said, he now is going to start a business. He's on fire. He's fired up. He's studying hard in his class. He's made some new friends. And she said this is where it really kicked in. She said, and he decided that he's not going to commit suicide. And here's the powerful part. She messages me. The last thing she says is, thank you so much. Because of you, not only is my son not dead, but he's finally alive. And I remember reading through that message, and I literally, like, tears started to come to my eyes, and I started to think, because it made me realize that this kid saw this video that was super controversial, and I said, you know, here's why you're poor. And the kid decided not to commit suicide. But one person told me to commit suicide. And if I would have listened to that person that told me to commit suicide, and I would have stopped making videos because of that, then that kid would have committed suicide. And it made me think, how many times do people miss out on their dreams, miss out on their goals, miss out on their opportunities, miss out on their impact because they were afraid of what people think about them?
That's awesome. You just rocked it, brother. High five. High five. Yeah.
It's the truth, though.
It's very much the truth. And, you know, it's one of those things, 3 feet from gold, right? Whether it's in putting yourself out there, you just related to 3 feet from gold, being authentic, going for it all in one message, right? I mean, because if you would have stopped, you wouldn't continue on where you are now. If you did stop.
Yeah, I mean, I told my truth. My truth, which was, listen, it was about like all these people who are like, oh, it's Monday, like, oh, I hate Monday. I was like, listen, if you say you hate Monday, you deserve jail because you're alive right now. Like, you hate Monday. What are you talking about? You're alive. That was my truth. It made millions of people mad at me, but it also impacted millions of people. That one video. And I learned that day, listen, I got to stop trying to impress people and start impressing upon people my truth.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that literally in our election recently. I mean, so many haters out there hating, and just, the world would have thought Trump would have gave up by now. People burning his body.
Trump, right? Yeah. You have 3% of people in America probably right now would literally shoot Donald Trump if they could, and they would think they did a service to our country. You have 10% of people that whenever they found out Donald Trump won, they probably puked. You have 20% who probably cried whenever they found out he won. You have 40% who thought he was the worst possible candidate out of all the candidates. But then there was at least, obviously, you know how it goes, but it was basically at least 51% of people thought he was the best out of the other candidates to be our president. And that teaches this. 80% of people may hate you, but the other 20% are going to make you rich, famous, and happy.
Yeah, exactly. It's just all about just believing in yourself. Because if he didn't believe in himself, if he would have, just like you said, if he would have not believed in himself just a millibit, it would all switched. It all would have switched. He just kept on going after relentless, and just like you did, relentless going forward. And here you are. And speaking of that, you're about to reach your goal of $1 million here soon, right?
That's right. Yeah, by February.
So that's one thing, everybody, that we've learned here today too, is not only to be relentless, but setting goals is super important. Caleb's been his whole life has been constantly setting goals, not only to read books, but financially, following all the strict guidelines to make it where he's going. It's just awesome to have him on the show here today.
Thank you.
Where, you just nailed it out of the park on that last one there. Where can people find you if they want to reach you, follow you, see your videos, etc.? Where can they find you?
Listen, I'm all across the board on social media, everywhere, basically. All 100,000 followers across everything. So, the main place that I would like to connect with you guys is probably Snapchat. I was voted in the top 8 must follow people on Snapchat recently. And I love to reply back to people, snap them. I love putting out content, showing my day. So go ahead and also, is this interview going to be on YouTube?
Yes, it will.
Okay, cool. So yeah, go ahead and add me on Snapchat at Caleb Maddix 13, Caleb Maddix 13. And then also, since you're already on YouTube, maybe watching this, go ahead and go to YouTube, type in Caleb Maddix. I do a bunch of stuff on YouTube, and I'm even hitting it way more hardcore now. So go and follow me on YouTube, just Caleb Maddix. But it's Caleb Maddix across the board except Snapchat. Snapchat is Caleb Maddix 13.
Awesome. Caleb, thanks so much. I know you're really busy, and you had to make some time for this interview. I really appreciate it that you came on here today. I really appreciate that you gave people some purpose here today, gave them some good tips on what to do. I hope the best for you, and I look forward to be following you myself. It's really exciting to see you, and I'll surely catch up with you somewhere else in a speaking engagement. So
definitely. Well, I really appreciate it. Definitely. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, coming on the 5-minute bark and, sticking to your word, because a lot of people, will just say, yeah, I'll come on, and then never hear from them again. And you guys responded instantly, your team, and you're here now. So that's just so great. So thanks again.
Definitely.
All right.
All right, man. Keep it up. Work your face off to everyone out there. And I believe in all you guys.
All right. Peace out. Caleb Madison, everybody. 5-minute bark. Thanks. You're watching the 5-Minute Bark podcast on YouTube. If you like this episode, you just may like many more. Subscribe today by clicking the red subscribe button in the top right-hand corner.